Welcome to Ripple Effect. I am Chris Byers with Formstack. Today, we are featuring Mike Barnes, the Director of Salesforce.com Administration for GOLFNOW. For any of us familiar with the golf industry, many things come to mind. Beautiful scenery, afternoons outside the office, comfortable accommodations, and time spent just kind of enjoying the game. What you don't often think about is technology. And Mike's going to share with us today how GOLFNOW is reimagining the golf experience for avid players around the world. Mike, welcome to the show. Before we get started, first, if you could just kickstart with a snapshot of what GOLFNOW does.
Sure. So GOLFNOW is the worldwide online way to book rounds for golf. So you want to play somewhere, and the way to now find rounds is online, just like about anything else you're going to be looking for these days for shopping, from shopping on Amazon to doing whatever else you do. Usually online is the way to go. So GOLFNOW is your marketplace, is your one-stop shop for golf, or booking rounds of golf anywhere in the world.
As you've kind of taken a look at this year, I'm curious, what are some unique challenges that your customers, even who are trying to book online, have experienced because of just all that's going on this year?
So, the booking experience has become more critical with with COVID-19 and lockdowns that have occurred. Many courses were shut down, as were most businesses, for a good amount of time in the spring. And fortunately, golf was able to reopen as one of the earlier things you could do, simply because it is a naturally socially distanced event. And one of the challenges with the booking side of things has been when you arrive at the golf course, typically you have to go in the pro shop and pay for your round, and there's interaction, you're indoors. And with GOLFNOW, we have the option that you can book online and prepay for your rounds. So many courses have opted in with us to allow for prepaid rounds, which is something that has blown up for our business, has gone really big, because the courses realize they want to limit interactions, in face-to-face interactions with the golfers if they can avoid it. And with our payments products, we can offer that to the golf courses so that they can offer that in turn to the golfers that are booking with them.
What do you think you've done differently than other organizations maybe like you that are kind of more innovative and have helped people be more successful right now?
Our audience is the golfer. They're the ones that we're trying to get out to book some rounds and get out and play. However, the customer who we are servicing is the golf course, and we provide back-end technology that helps the course operate their business. So you can think of GOLFNOW sort of as like the open table of golf. We provide the back-end technology to help operate the pro shop, and also the front-end technology for people to connect with that golf course. So we're providing both aspects of the experience, so that we can provide a seamless experience. So if folks are booking their rounds online, it automatically shows on the electronic tee sheet for the golf course, and that way, and that we also provide other technology that helps the course run their business, whether it's food and beverage as part of their operation, if they have memberships. There's a number of different ways that we provide different pieces of technology to help golf courses, depending on how their golf course is structured.
We're all thinking about, how do we reimagine the work kind of world around us because of so many of the changes that we're experiencing. As you kind of step back and think about 2020, about 2021 in the future, what do you think it means to reimagine work, especially for golf clubs?
So, I can say that, golf clubs, they're learning how to service their customer and maintain the necessary distance that's required now to do that. We have some really innovative tools that have come out, including the G1 tool. So G1 basically allows you to show up at the golf course. The starter can check you in via iPad. So the intent is to avoid having to go in the clubhouse. But that there's some inherent risk to the golf course. They don't come in the clubhouse, they're not going to maybe pick up some golf balls or some view the merchandise. But with the G1, there's the opportunity to sell directly from the iPad as well. Hey, it looks like you needed golf balls last time you were here. Do you need another sleeve? Sure, yeah. So they can place orders, get things they need directly from the iPad with limited interaction. Same with somebody servicing the golf course, driving around on a golf cart, selling beverages and such out on the golf course. Same kind of experience where with the iPad and with knowledge of the customer that they're interacting with, they can identify, okay, well, this looks like you generally get, this kind of beverage, or are you ready for another? Or are you ready for a hot dog? Whatever it is that you need, they can, serve it, help provide a higher level of touch and service to the golfer who's out on the course. Having that capability, as well as being able to do it with, again, limited interaction, those tools are really helping drive better experience for the golfer and for the golf course itself.
And what would you say for yourself? How are you thinking about kind of your own work change and how this impacts your day-to-day?
So yeah, for me, it's been a different world, right? So we all at GolfNow are currently working from home. We have been since March. We did a trial in mid-March and never came home from the trial. So it was like a Thursday, Friday trial, and we were told by in the afternoon on Friday, we're going to go ahead and just keep this going, because they determined everybody could effectively work from home. We have Microsoft Teams, among other Microsoft products. So with Teams, we're able to communicate pretty effectively. I actually see some people more face to face now than I did before, because our offices, are a bit big, and sometimes it takes a lot of time to get up and walk from building to building, or from place to place. So it's a little more efficient, to be here and pop people on Teams instantly instead of having to walk across the way or hop on the phone, right? I may not see them face to face. So it's been a different experience. It's I wasn't sure if I would enjoy working from home, frankly, but after doing it now for the last set number of months, and I really do enjoy it. I really find that I'm a bit more efficient. I'm able to get I think more done. And I'm also, I think, a little healthier myself, getting up in the morning, getting out of the house a little bit, where normally I'd be getting up, getting ready, and getting in the car for a commute. So the time that I would spend commuting has now been replaced with exercise, which I really appreciate that. And, I hope other folks are able to get the same out of it.
Yeah, there's something for me about I used to travel quite a bit more, and I think just the consistency of being at home most of the time has actually allowed me to eat a lot better. So I agree. That's been a unique benefit, at least in my life. So give us a sense of, what does a day in your role look like? Give us a glimpse into it.
Sure. So we have a somewhat structured system where we use Salesforce to manage all of the requests that come to us. We run weekly sprints, so we try to keep a reasonable amount of work in each week. And then we also have day-to-day support. So right now it's just me and one other full-time admin that do Salesforce, primary Salesforce administration every day. And we have 700 plus users. So quite a few users for very few admins, but we're able to do that because I think we have a good process. We also have great team leads. So what we've realized we had to do, because we're interfacing with numerous departments, at least a dozen different departments just within GolfNow, right? You have a marketing team, you have a sales team, we have a technology team, we have a bunch of different teams that all have different needs from us. We've set up a team lead within each of those departments that we meet at least weekly to discuss, here's what's in the next week's sprint. Here's what we've done this week for you. Here's what's coming up in the next week's sprint. If we need to make some adjustments, hey, this is a real high priority item, then we shift things around. We do that every week. That's part of the weekly process. And otherwise, the day is, get up, check, see what's, the obligatory email and Teams chats. Got to try to keep those in check. But I try to only check those, 2 or 3 times a day at most. Otherwise, I am, occasionally in meetings, but I try to keep the meetings focused on the cases that I have in the queue. And then it's really working through the cases in the queue, calling people if I have questions, continue to develop Salesforce, develop workflow. We use a heavy amount of workflow at GolfNow just to keep everything straight. So there's a number of different technology and tools we use, and so I have to support all of that. So every day there's, there could be nominal things, some bugs, self-created bugs or issues things aren't working the way they are intended for a specific use case. And so that's why I spend, half my week is really supporting and fixing issues, and we're looking to make things more stable long term. And the other part is building new features and that folks are requesting to help them be more efficient with what they're doing.
One of the interesting things you mentioned was 700 users. And so when I think about, people often think about change with kind of this negative feeling. And I know that when you need to make a change, it's going to impact a lot of people. I'm curious, how do you go about approaching change and making that feel like a positive thing for the users around you?
Well, the good news about the culture at GolfNow is they are definitely not afraid of change. We are constantly going through it. It's never ending, and but it's always considered to be positive because it's moving the business forward. So we've had a number of acquisitions over the years where we've brought to expand our business. There's been some, of course, internal development, but there's also been acquiring of outside business. So 7.5 years ago, I got to GolfNow and I thought, wow, this is a pretty simple business. We're just posting tee times online, and we have a sales team that's out trying to recruit golf courses to post their tee times online. That was the scope of the business. The business has since expanded quite a bit, and where one of the first things we did was acquire 2 tee sheet companies because we knew we wanted to get into the tee sheet business. So one was BRS Golf out of Belfast, Northern Ireland, and the other was 4 Reservations out of Chicago. They're now a fully integrated part of GolfNow. That was one of the first projects, first 2 parallel projects I was put on to get them embedded into our Salesforce processes to bring them in. So the changes continued where we've internally we built Golf Advisor. We were collecting all kinds of ratings and reviews for golf courses through golfnow.com. When you booked your round or finished your round, you were requested, hey, tell us what you thought about your experience. We realized we had aggregated the largest number of rating reviews on golf courses anywhere. So we've spun that up into Golf Advisor. So that's now its own product where we continue to provide the most rating reviews on golf courses anywhere in the world. So we've also since more recently acquired EasyLinks Golf, we're also out of Chicago, and they again are helping us expand our business, our footprint, but it also requires a lot of work on the team internally to integrate the businesses. And so that change has been constant. There's always been something new every year. There's always something new that's changing how we think about the business, or some new technology that we want to get out and promote and sell to help improve the experience for golfers. And so that has definitely kept us on our toes. The latest thing is Smart Play. So Smart Play is going to be a new technology for helping golfers get the most out of their game. It's a really neat new feature. Again, new tool built internally inside of GolfNow, and it's going to help, I think, change our business for the better. So that's the change has not been something that's been scary at GolfNow. It's something that we've embraced, and it's the reason. Frankly, it's the reason I'm working here, because there's always something new and exciting to learn and a new problem to solve, and it's not a stale business by any means.
Well, one of the things you talked about was being low code all the way, I think was the phrase. So would love to hear how you would encourage people to think about building kind of their low code, no code toolboxes.
Absolutely. So I'm not a trained developer. I've had some development courses in college, but I started out as an electrical engineer. And so as an electrical engineer, I did machine control and automation. So I worked with low code tools from the time I was an intern in college. As my career evolved and I ended up, here and doing Salesforce.com now for a living, I realized it's the same kind of logic, the same kind of thought process automation logic that you, as an engineer, have to think through. Well, how are we going to get from these inputs to these outputs? And there's the stuff in the middle that nobody really understands. And it can be done with code. There's definitely a lot of great developers out there who build some pretty amazing tools, including developers on the GolfNow staff who are building out the tools within GolfNow because they're novel tools. They are custom, and they are proprietary. So they're being developed, line by line code. When it comes to operating a business, though, there are plenty of tools out there that are already built, and there's plenty of commonalities between businesses that you can use similar tools across many different businesses. There's all kinds of workflow automation things you can do that do not have to write Apex code to get done. And in fact, I've kind of made it a point from the time I got into using Salesforce is that I wanted to avoid code wherever possible. There are some cases you can't avoid it. There are places where we have to do API integrations, things that do require some custom Apex, but those are the exception. For us, the rule is we're using Process Builder, we're using Flow, we're using Formstack for forms instead of writing our own HTML. We're using a Squid for the front end instead of writing Aura components inside Salesforce. So I recommend just identifying the tools that you need that will work for you. There's plenty of tools out there across many different platforms and that integrate with Salesforce. And then there's things outside of Salesforce as well that you can look at. I found that a group of tools that work really well for me, meet my needs. The answer I want to be able to give to my team is yes. this, and they say, hey, can we do this? Early in my Salesforce career, it was like, well, Salesforce doesn't really do that, or it require, or the answer was typically, sure, we can do that, but it's going to require custom code, and here's what it's probably going to cost to get that built. Now the answer is typically, yes, I have a tool for that, and I can do it. So, and I can do it for you pretty quickly. We can get that done, and I'm not going to have to recruit an external developer. I'm not going to have to. I can think through the process and build it with the low code declarative tools that are available to me now.
If you have those low code, no code tools, it kind of presumes that you've actually got a problem that you want to solve. How is it you go about discovering, it's time to actually change a process? And then what's the first step you need to take?
Our team is constantly coming up with new ways they want to run the business and want to get, whether it's information they need to gather or it's how we want to interact with our customers. That's typically where the basis, right? It's we have something we want to sell. There's something we want to be able to do for our customers that we don't really have the tools to do it now. So from my perspective, I'm helping advise what we can get done, but we have a bunch of brilliant people who are coming in and saying all the time, here's what I need to be able to deliver this to our customers. And that's where it ultimately all funnels down to having the focus on the customer that, hey, we want to make sure we're delivering to them ultimately the best service that we can deliver. Like I said, we meet at least once a week, and more often if there's a special project or something that's happening, and we identify, okay, well, here's what we want to be able to deliver to the customer. Here's what we want to do. Here's what do we need to get there? So we work our way back to the technology. It's not, hey, here's a cool fancy piece of technology we can deploy. Let's see how we can fit this in. That's usually not the process that we're taking. It's usually let's identify the problem. Let's figure out what tools we might need to solve the problem, and then we back our way into it. The technology that's going to help us get there the most efficient way possible. So, and typically, again, low code tools for me have been the most efficient way there simply because time to development is so much faster, and it doesn't require getting external expertise. It doesn't require me pulling, valuable GOLFNOW developers into Salesforce projects, because better for them to be out developing GOLFNOW, developing the proprietary technology, and let me handle the business technology in a low-code way where I can.
So you mentioned in that conversation there this idea of customers. So even internally, you have customers at times, and sometimes you're focused on the external customer. What does it mean to have kind of a client-first mindset?
Well, I mean, I'm trying to make everybody as efficient as possible. Remove the barriers to them getting what they need to get done. So whether that's going to be the golfer trying to book a round, or our partner trying to sign a sales contract, or our finance team trying to make sure invoices get sent out properly, I'm trying to remove barriers to them getting what they need to get done. Because if I can do that, if I can remove those barriers, then I can make everybody's happier because, hey, I don't have these roadblocks in the way. I don't have these delays. I'm able to move right through to get done what I need to get done. So whether it's, as you mentioned, whether it's an internal customer who has a request for us, or it's an external customer, I'm always focused on what can I do to make their life easier. And generally what makes their life easier makes my life more complicated. But I'm okay with that because that's my job. I solve puzzles. I solve problems. And if they can present me a cool problem, I'm happy to go figure out what's going to make it work for them.
Yeah, I actually appreciate that idea that for those who are actually building the solution, it isn't always an easier life. You may be helping people save a lot of time, which of course is saving the organization money, but it's something you have to support and you have to be involved in.
Absolutely.
I'm curious, what do you think it means really to modernize your customers' kind of workplace there, to help them rethink their work? How do you think you help them do that?
Well, I try to get them to tell me what they actually need. That's probably the hardest part, I think, with being in a position of like mine, is getting people to actually tell you when they have a problem instead of working around it. One of the nicknames I got early on was spreadsheet killer, because people were just living off spreadsheets because they had been living off spreadsheets forever, and they owned the spreadsheet and they knew how the spreadsheet worked. Of course, there's a lot of inherent flaws with living off spreadsheets. It can get stale, can get static. Different people own different versions of it, and it gets bad news. So that's just, again, an example of how some folks work and trying to get them to tell me, hey, what are you doing now that we can make better? And sometimes they don't see the problem. They don't see that their spreadsheet is really not the most efficient way to get done what they need to get done. But eventually those all come to light, right? It's, hey, I want to get reporting on what's happening over here. Well, that's being done on so-and-so spreadsheet. Well, get them out of there. Like, we got to get that data got to get it into Salesforce. Let's get them a process in Salesforce that will work, that they can then own the data there instead of own it on the spreadsheet. The second problem that we have is less frequent, but occasionally is folks that want to come in and provide the design to us. Okay, well, I want this object with this fields and this workflow. And it's like, well, no, hold on, let's back up. Tell me, what is the problem you're trying to solve? Like, what issue are you having, and what is the outcome you want to achieve? So asking those questions and backing people off of the design side of things, said, let me handle the design. I'm happy to include you in the design, and I'm happy to have you provide input as what you think might work best. You're operating the business. You tell me what problem you have and what outcome you'd like to achieve. Once I figure out those things, that's one thing I do miss about being in the office is having my big whiteboard and be able to draw a bunch of things out with people in the office and kind of come up and imagine the solution there. As I get up and talk about it, then I can usually sometimes clears my head a little bit to think through the potential issues. So, but just be able to do those sort of things, I need to find the way to do that better now from home. We'll jot things and draw things out on paper and pen just because I have to visualize it, quite often before I can build. But the trick is, identifying the problem, figuring out what the end point the person wants, and then figuring out what you need to build in the middle that's going to get them there.
Well, tell us how take that example of the whiteboard. What are the ways you're reimagining how to get that solved kind of going forward? That whiteboarding experience, that design experience.
Oh, gosh. Well, like I said, I'm still drawing on my piece of paper and with pen. Obviously, it's kind of funny for a technology kind of person to live off pen and paper, but I guess that may say more about my generation than age. But I definitely need to use the tools I have available in Teams and whatnot to maybe, if I need a different tool, find a different tool. That's probably something I need to figure out now is, well, what tools are available to me that I can then draw things out on the screen with other people able to see it, as opposed to my pen and paper, which is just for me. So that's definitely something. One of the things on the roadmap, as this staying home here seems to be interminable. I don't see any end coming to it anytime soon for us. Being a technology business, we're very fortunate that we don't have to. There's no absolute need to be in an office environment. So we're very, very fortunate in this current state of the world to have that option to be able to be home. But at the same time, it does pose some challenges where before we could all get in a conference room, whiteboard things out, and we were just used to that, being the way we could get things done. I could even snap some pictures with my phone of the whiteboard and then leave the meeting and I'd have everything I needed. So being able to whiteboard those things out, that's definitely a problem I need to figure out how I'm going to solve.
So I'm sure many people who are listening are saying, wow, it sounds like GolfNow is fairly well resourced for building solutions to lots of problems internally, building workflows, have the tools, have the team. For those who are kind of feeling a bit overwhelmed right now and saying, I really want to kind of jump into this, what do you think the first step is they need to think about in just saying, just put something in place and just begin that process? What are some things that come to mind?
Well, yeah, if I was going to if I was in a business that didn't have Salesforce, I definitely would look at it with very closely. I launched Salesforce at the company I was with prior to my current company about 10 years ago. And that was really my first taste of it. I'd heard of Salesforce, in passing prior to that, but we needed it at that time. Again, prior company needed a new CRM. The CRM we had was basically no better than a glorified electronic Rolodex, and we needed something a little better than that. So we tried some other solutions that I won't mention here, but Salesforce we just found was the best solution that we could find on the market, and it met all the needs that we wanted at the time and all the needs we couldn't possibly have anticipated in the futures. The next thing is to take full advantage of the tools you have within Salesforce.com itself. So there's so much automation you can do. Again, when I got here at GolfNow, there was very little automation done. They were using Salesforce to track activity, so track meetings and phone calls, and that was about it. They did have some opportunities. They did a little bit with that, and they did some other things, but there was practically no automation in place. It was very, very light, what was in place. So I came in, I was initially a lone Salesforce admin. Of course, the business was a bit smaller back then, fewer users, but we went through and just found out, hey, where are the pain points? And that's, again, if you're looking for something to solve first, it's in your business, is figure out where the pain points are, and you probably know where they are. You probably, if you're not using Salesforce, if you're not using it well, you probably already know, okay, these are things that are always a problem. Go solve those first. Let's get underneath those pain points, identify what's everybody does not like about how their business works right now, and find a way to solve it with automation. One of the examples is we had, again, early on in the current org, we were tracking everything, and we still track a lot of things by market. We kind of divide the world up into specific markets, and the one of the challenges was we had a market on the account, and then they had to set a market on the opportunity. And there was a market on other objects as well in Salesforce. So you ended up with tracking the same information multiple places, but every opportunity had an account relationship. So, it sounds pretty simple. It sounds pretty basic, and it was. And it was just setting a formula to say, hey, just pull a market from the account into the opportunity. Doing something simple like that, just so that, hey, why is our markets don't align between our account report and our opportunity report? Well, it's because you're putting the information in 3 different times. So 3 different people potentially are putting 3 different pieces of information. Trying to get, data cleanliness is probably one of the most challenging things in any CRM. I'm sure, is just trying to keep your data clean. So the fewer touch points you have with any particular piece of data, definitely the better. Very, very early, probably first week thing that I did, I realized, oh, this is a real problem. Let's solve that, and just keep finding the pain points and keep running them down and solve one thing at a time. It's the old elephant adage: how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. So don't look at this whole mess and be like, oh man, we're never gonna be able to solve this thing. Find out, here's one little point that if we could solve that would give us the biggest win. Find the low-hanging fruit. That's the easy stuff. I'm at the point where we've kind of picked all the low-hanging fruits, and now I'm solving much more complex, larger problems. And I frankly find it more interesting and much more fun to solve the larger problems than the low-hanging fruit. But the low-hanging fruit's easy, and it's a great way to get started.
Well, as we kind of wrap up today, a couple quick questions that I think people will appreciate. First is what's your one piece of advice for embracing simplicity in business processes?
Oh, goodness. So definitely have a plan. This is something that didn't come to me all at once, but over time, do a lot of research in your field. So if Salesforce, search the Salesforce, ideas at search the Salesforce, message posts, because a lot of folks are already asking the questions that you're asking. And so one of the best things I think I found is just keeping a consistent format, and also use a lot of notes. I wish I'd done this more earlier than I do, and than we did, early on. Is you have a description field in Salesforce on everything. You have descriptions. Put in notes. Put in, and that again, that's more of a developer best practice that I've learned more recently. That in developer, if you see a line of code, you'll see a lot of commented text, right? Where it's commented out of the code, but it's there for your reference. And using that so that when you come back 7 years later and you're looking at, well, why do we have this in place, you can answer your own question. And one of the ways we're doing that to, again, help keep things simple is we track all of our activity, all the requests that we're getting, we track through cases already. So to make things simple, so I'm not having to regurgitate what was asked to do, I simply put a case reference in to the description. So if I ever have to go back to something, I have a reference ID. I can just go then look up that case, and I can see, okay, well, here's exactly why I built it. Here's all the chatter about what happened. I don't have to, again, you don't have to get crazy wordy with description and notes. We already, again, the same objective of not duplicating the same information multiple places in Salesforce. We try to live up to that also with how we track our notes with things we're building. Hey, we were doing everything based on a case. Let's just reference the case. And let's keep all the notes in one place in the case itself. So that's, to me, that'd be probably the advice I wish I had gotten 10 years ago, would have been to, do what I'm doing now, which we've, again, only learned over time. First, make sure to handle everything out of cases, try to avoid handling things out of email and Teams chats. Those things do happen, but we generally, if it's not a quick win or immediate problem that's, shutting people down, we try to divert them back into case and get it, queued up in an orderly fashion, as opposed to just constantly taking all the noise from both sides, or from all sides. which can happen. So again, that's probably the second piece of advice is make sure you're using some process to route everything in. As long as you have something that you're tracking the requests and that you can then work from, that will help you keep things organized. That'd be one of my biggest pieces of advice. Stay organized, keep it simple, and go from there.
And last question, can you share your go-to productivity tip?
Oh, goodness. Go-to productivity. So trying to think of, from my personal standpoint, it's working from home. It's easy to get distracted, and there's plenty of other things going on. My wife thinks because I'm here, if I'm not on a phone call, I must be available. So trying to, if you have the capability to separate yourself, have a separate room, and also stay to a schedule. So we've been pretty good. Every day we get up, we try to get out of bed by 7:00. Try to get out and ride our bikes or go for a walk, spend a half hour just, getting the blood pumping. And I think there's been nothing better I could have done for myself than to do that and have that kind of morning routine, then come back, get cleaned up, and then get to work. So it's just having a standard routine has really helped me to stay focused. So when I'm at work, I'm at work. And then the hardest part, I think, for me is cutting it off at the end of the day, because dinner time, usually comes, and I'll try to, make that the end, right? Okay, it's time for dinner. We're going to go ahead and cut things off for today and move on to the family portion of the evening. So that's been definitely a challenge, is stay productive by focusing that, hey, this is my work time. But hopefully that's a question you're asking about productivity. That's just how I'm able to manage it.
Yeah, I think that speaks to a lot of what we all need. It starts with personal productivity and getting the right energy for the work that we've got ahead. So I love that. Well, Mike, thanks for joining us today. It's been a great conversation, and appreciate you joining us on Ripple Effect. As we kind of wrap this episode up featuring Mike Barnes, there are a couple kind of takeaways to highlight. First is have a client-first mindset and dive into problems to really understand for your customers what is their problem and what is the outcome that they're looking for. Build that no-code tool set. It's the way that you're going to help kind of remove barriers and help people save time in their work and make their lives easier. And then build relationships. That's the way that you can really understand and source, where are there problems that I need to solve? How can we actually get those taken care of? Thanks so much for joining us today. It's been a great conversation here on Ripple Effect, and we're curious what you think of it. Give us a review or shout out online. Tell us how we're doing, and we'd love to hear your feedback on this particular episode or Ripple Effect in general.